Good evening. I'd like to call the March 21st meeting of the ALRC to order. For those of you that are with us for the first time, let me just mention that this meeting is governed by Robert's Rules of Order. And among other things, when we get to speakers on various agenda items, want to make sure that you've registered to speak, which means you need to, let me borrow your form here, if you haven't already, fill out a speaker form and hand it to the clerk so that we have a record of everyone who wants to speak. So if you've come down and want to get your oar in the water and we pass you by, we want to avoid that. So the way we keep an eye on that is to make sure that everyone is registered. And we also ask that when you do speak that you keep your comments to 3 minutes. We've got a timer here that'll give you an update as to when your time is up. And then if the committee wants to hear you continue to chat, we'll take action on that. So with those two general items, Mr. Verbeek, do we have anyone who has notified us of an absence?
Yes, Ms. Hill.
Okay, so Ms. Hill won't be here this evening. Okay, so with that, why don't you call the meeting to order, or call the roll so we can get the meeting officially underway?
Oh, and Alder Bidar Siloff said she would be late as well.
Okay.
All right, so Bidar Siloff, and here. Canaspina?
Present.
Donnelly?
Present.
Fletcher? Grady?
Here.
Landgraf?
Present.
Skidmore?
Here.
Revere?
Here.
We have quorum.
Okay, we are officially underway. So the first item on the agenda is the approval of the February 21st minutes, which have been distributed to the committee. Anyone have a motion or questions or modification to those minutes? Mr. Grady.
I'll make a motion to approve.
A motion and a second to approve the minutes as submitted. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Do we have anyone registered for general public comment?
We do not.
Okay. Next item on our agenda is disclosures and recusals. At this point, any of the members of the committee that might have a potential conflict with an item on the agenda, identify that right now so that we know when we get to that agenda if they're going to participate or not in it. Do we have any disclosures or recusals? Any of the members? Okay. Hearing none, that takes us to the consent agenda. For those of you that have been with us, are with us for the first time, to move the meeting along and deal with more administrative matters in a single motion, we have something called a consent agenda. So in a minute, Mr. Verbeek is going to read off the agenda items that are currently listed on the consent agenda. The committee will then have some discussion of whether those items stay on or we add additional items. But once we finalize the consent agenda and a motion is taken on it, all of those items are approved in a single motion. So I would ask that you pay particular attention to which items are on the consent agenda, because once it's approved, you're free to go and we won't be having any more discussion on your particular item. So Mr. Verbeek, would you read off our consent agenda items?
Sure. Recommended grants, 3, 4, 5, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 20, 26, 27, and then recommend to refer to April 18th ALRC meeting is 25, and I'd also like to add 21 on there, because I realized today that that one I was going to hold off until we got the agent change on there, because they appeared to us last month and we said we would wait for them to complete their change of agent for us and then hear both of those at the same time.
And that's Diego Enterprises?
Yes.
Okay, those are the items that are set for the consent agenda. Any discussion? We have a few. Mr. Kano Spina.
I would like to take 20 out. Just have a couple of questions on that. And just to clarify, you're asking 21 to be recommended for April? Is that
Recommend defer to April.
for
Yep.
April? Okay. I have no problem with 21 recommended. Thank you.
That's fine.
Mr. Donnelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have questions for two of the people of business on the agenda tonight that I think we can deal with quickly. For number 27, Tin Fox. Coming up to the mic.
Actually, I would ask that for separation. I've requested the alter of the district.
Okay, never mind. If we're separating that, then my point is moot. The other one is number 11, a change of agent, Patrick Sias. Patrick here? Okay, then I request separation of number 11, please.
Okay, so 11, 20, and 27 are off the agenda, and Alder Revere.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I was going to request separation of 20 and 27. That's been accomplished. I also just wanted to confirm, is the applicant for item 21 present? And if so, do they understand why they're being referred? Do you have a registration, Mr. Verbeck, for 21?
21? No, they're not because.
You already talked to them offline?
No, because the expectation was that they weren't gonna be here until they completed their change of agent forms, so they weren't expecting to be here.
Okay. The alder of the district expected to come, so I'll try to get a hold of her and let her know she doesn't need to be here.
Sure.
And then, just a suggestion, now that we have the list settled, if we could just individually list every item that would be on the consent motion, so, because I don't know that all the applicants know their agenda numbers
We will read them
for
through.
certain. So formally, for the record, I'll move the consent agenda as presented with those separations as noted, and the addition of referral on item 21.
Okay, we have a second from Mr. Kano Espina. So Mr. Verbeck will go through the revised consent agenda, and in addition to the agenda item, this time we'll also identify the name of the applicant with that agenda item in case you don't have an agenda right in front of you. So, Mr. Verbeck.
Recommend the council to grant number 3, temporary Class B retailer license concurrent with street use permit, G-Safe, event location 100 Block King Street, event date August 18th, 2018. Number 4, temporary Class B retail license concurrent with street use permit, G-Safe, event location 100 Block King Street, event date September 29th, 2018. Number 5, temporary Class B retailer license concurrent with street use permit, Back Porch Radio Broadcasting, Inc., event location 200 Block Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, event date May 20th, 2018. Number 9, change of agent Quick Trip, Inc. at 1625 North Stoughton Road. Number 10, change of agent Dave & Buster's of Wisconsin, Inc. Number 12, change of agent Tango Bravo, Inc. Number 13, change of agent Lomo TRC LLC. Number 14, change of agent Quick Trip at 3528 East Washington Avenue. Number 26, public hearing, new license, Owls Brawl LLC, 2639 East Springs Drive, Class B combination liquor and beer. Recommend it refer to April 18th ALRC meeting. Number 21, 21 plus entertainment license, Diego Enterprises. And number 25, public hearing, new license, IO Arcade Bar LLC.
Okay. Any further discussion on any of consent agenda items? All right, hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, so if your item was read off by Mr. Verbeck, it's just been approved, so you're free to hang out with us or head out to other things this evening. We do have one item that the city has provided an interpreter for. That's item 15, and typically we take items out of order if we have interpreters here so that they can do their interpreting and then be on their way. So item 15, which is La Escondida Mexican Grill LLC. We have one registrant, and that's Jessica Towers? Did I get that right? Okay, great. All right, so why don't you tell the committee what you were, I'm
Just
sorry.
wanted the interpreter.
There you go. We need to swear you in first.
Yep. Do you affirm that you will accurately interpret English to Spanish and Spanish to English?
In the best of my abilities, I do.
Okay. So why don't you ask the applicant to explain to the committee what she has in mind for her restaurant?
Antes que nada, estamos trabajando muy duro en el restaurante Escondida Mexican Grill para proveer más horas para el público.
The first thing that I would like to mention is that we've been working very hard in the Escondida Mexican restaurant, trying to make possible if we can provide more hours to attention to the public.
Cuando digo más horas, son abrir más temprano,
When I say more hours, I'm referring to opening a bit earlier,
porque es un restaurante familiar, solo mi esposo y mis hijas trabajamos ahí.
because it's a family restaurant. It is my husband and my daughters who work there.
Y los invito a todos a que pasen a comer ahí, está muy rico.
And you're invited all to stop by and eat something. The food is very good.
La otra cosa que tengo es varias cartas firmadas por mis vecinos, donde me ayudan están de acuerdo a que tenga los días que estoy pidiendo extensiones de horas más tarde.
The other thing that I have here with me is several letters of my neighbors that they are supporting my request to be open until a bit later.
No sé si gustan ver alguna.
I don't know if you want to see some of them.
Okay?
That
That's
would be it.
Okay, questions of the applicant?
Pregunta para la
No questions of the applicant. Mr. Grady?
applicant.
Only for 3 months, March, April, and May? Is that what I'm understanding?
Marzo, abril y mayo.
Tenía pensado, puse yo hasta el mes de octubre, que es cuando puedo yo tener la posibilidad del año completo de mi negocio.
I had thought until the month of October, in which I complete a full year of my business running.
También les envié un email con la carta y mi plan de seguridad
¿A quién se la mete?
a la ciudad.
I also sent to the city an email with my plan of what we're thinking about doing.
Assistant City Attorney Allen?
I'm looking at the application, I'm unclear as to what is being requested here, because it says extend hours in March, April, and May until 2:30 a.m. for football games and boxing shows, as well as private parties once a month. It seems to me that, given certain times a year, and depending upon how you define football, that could mean every night of the week. And boxing shows, if you go on ESPN, I'm certain you can find a boxing show any day of the week at any hour. And as well as private parties, that's completely at their discretion. So I would ask that the committee not grant such broad language, but focus on days and hours of the week if it is inclined to grant an extension of hours rather than the language that's being proposed in essence by the applicant.
Por ejemplo, para el mes de mayo, para el mes de marzo, perdón, mayo, tenemos el 5 de mayo, un evento especial que es el 5 de mayo de México. Solamente es no hacer una gran fiesta, sino que permitirnos las horas más tarde a venta de comida, a venta de antojitos mexicanos. una persona que canta las mañanitas, un mariachi y solamente algo así. No fuerte, no nada.
In the case, for example, of the 5th of May, which is the celebration of Mexican independence, we're proposing to do some things, but nothing really out of proportion or very loud. Maybe a mariachi band or something, but nothing
No,
that goes beyond that.
no
So,
mariachi band.
No
It's
mariachi band?
just
Okay. Sorry, no mariachi
a person
bands.
who sing, but not like band.
Okay, sorry about that. No mariachi band, just a person that sings.
Alder Rivera?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So referencing the email that you mentioned that you sent to the city, we did receive copies of that email tonight when we walked in to the meeting. And at the bottom of your, it's called security plan, you do list specific days that you wish to receive special permission.
Que recibas un permiso especial.
Is that correct?
Sí. Y
Would you
cada
like-
uno, y cada uno tiene por qué va a ser el día o la cosa.
Yes, that is correct, and each of those days is a specific something taking place.
I no longer have your email in front of me because I've now passed it on. 3 different
I'm
people have
sorry.
read my
I'm
copy. But could you go through it one by one? Oh, you have extra copies? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, this is different, but. Thank you. Thank you, Jim.
Those my signatures.
Entonces te piden que tú vayas en cada uno. Sorry, you requested
Yeah,
for
so-
her to
so-
go in each of the?
So, yes, so to ask again, I'm asking about the security plan
Plan de seguridad.
that was apparently
Plan de-
just
plan de
emailed
seguridad que
earlier
está
this
puesto en el
afternoon. Could you explain one by one
Podría explicar
each of
cada uno
the
de los puntos.
special event dates that you're requesting at the bottom of your email here?
Al final del
Please.
documento. ¿Hay una lista de eso al final?
Para el abril, sí, para el abril 14 tengo una fiesta privada reservada solamente para comuniones.
April 14th, I have a reservation made for a party for First Communions.
Can I say in English a little bit? Well, on the 14 and 28, 29, I have the communions reservation for the kids who has the presentation for God in April, and May 5th is for the Cinco de Mayo, the Independence Mexican. 19 and 20, we have a boxing show that is just until midnight. Soon when the show's done, we close it, so I don't need on to June 9 and 30, same. One of my cousin, he's boxing, so we're gonna put the show in the TV. Ahí para los clientes.
For the clients that go to see the show.
July 7 and 28 is for the independence, the United States. The same time to the law. El de 29 es para el día igual de una reservación que tengo en caso de que me lo den. La gente, sería una fiesta privada con invitación.
Okay. For the 29th, if I obtain the permission for that day, it would be a private party that's going to take place only with invitation.
Septiembre 1 es mi cumpleaños y sería una fiesta privada familiar.
September 1st is my birthday, and it would be a family meeting.
Septiembre 15 y 16 sería la fiesta de México hispana.
September 15 and 16 would be an Independence of Mexico also, Hispanic celebration.
Y el 28, 27 y 28 el Halloween, Halloween party, el weekend es.
27 and 28 Halloween.
Thank you. So I appreciate you going through each of these. I guess my main question is more for each and every one of these specific dates. Are you requesting to do what you asked for in your application for change of conditions back in January, which was to extend your hours of operation from 10 p.m. until 2:30 a.m.?
Yes.
So you'd like to be open till bar time every single one of these days?
Oh.
Whether it's First Communion, celebration, or Cinco de Mayo, or boxing, or your birthday party?
Sí.
Yes.
Okay. And I haven't been looking at my calendar on my phone. Do you know, are these mostly weekends, or is it, do you not know, do you know what day of the week these are?
Sábado,
It's Saturdays.
solamente es un sábado.
It's only one Saturday,
His Saturdays most.
mostly Saturdays.
Mostly Saturday nights, but not all Friday and
No,
Saturday
all that
nights?
weekend.
No todos.
So some could be during a work night.
Por tanto, algunos podrían ser días de trabajo. ¿Son días de trabajo? No.
But in other words,
For the communion, they do on in May, they do have on Sunday, but that's for community party. They're just for kids. As soon when they have with the party, we close. It is not, we not extend out onto open bar for
so
that
the-
day also.
so the ones that are on Sundays, you would never be open
Yeah.
till 2:30 a.m.
Yeah.
Monday morning? Because the Sunday ones are all children
Yes.
celebrating their first communion.
No, just until unless midnight when people done with cleaning and, yeah,
So till midnight on the dates that are Sundays?
Los domingos hasta la medianoche.
yes,
Yes.
yo sí.
Okay, thank you very much. Those are all my questions for now. And of course, I want to hear from Alderperson Carter and Captain Patterson. Actually, could I just ask you on that note, did you meet since last time you were here at our meetings? Have you met with Alderperson Carter and Captain Patterson?
Juntado con Captain Patterson y otro concejal.
I've been sending emails. I have emails that I send it
I
to
see.
request to community meeting, community with them, but unfortunately, desafortunadamente,
Unfortunately,
no hemos tenido tiempo. Ellos no han podido tener tiempo conmigo y
we have not been able to meet directly face to face with me.
Okay, so there was no community meeting since the last time you were with us here?
No.
No ha
Okay.
tenido.
Okay.
por eso me tomé la libertad de ir con los vecinos a que me firmaran, si estaban de acuerdo, vinieran conmigo y dijeran si estaban también de acuerdo ellos.
That's why I took the liberty of going to the neighbors and asking their support and seeing if they are supporting me on the letter.
Okay, thank you again.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Kano Espina?
So you said that for the boxing
Dice que
fight,
para el
the,
boxeo,
that you will close at midnight?
a cerrar a la medianoche. Yes.
Porque
So-
usualmente a las 11 termina el show, entonces 11 empieza, es una hora y acaba a las 12.
It generally lasts for 1 hour, begins at 11 o'clock, so at midnight it's already over.
So just to make sure, you are only asking for
Estás pidiendo solamente
May 5th, which is Cinco de Mayo, until 2:30.
hasta las 2:30
You're
de la
asking
mañana.
for
Estás
July
pidiendo
7,
para
that
julio
is
7,
the Independence Day for the United
Independencia
States,
Americana,
until 2:30.
hasta las 2:30.
And are you asking Halloween until 2:30 too?
Halloween también hasta las 2:30 de la mañana.
Sí.
And
Yes.
Halloween the 27 and
El
28?
27 y el 28 Halloween.
Uno de los dos días que ustedes me quieran dar.
Whichever one of the two you decide to grant me.
But for all the other days that are the private parties for your birthday and the Primera Comunión, the First Communion, those are, and the boxing, those are midnight.
Esos son medianoche. Yes.
And then you have here that there is no more than 120 people
Tiene aquí que no hay más
in
de
your plan. What
120
is your
personas.
capacity?
Yes. ¿Cuál es la capacidad de tu local?
100 and around, sí, eso,
Around that, 121?
21.
Do we?
I don't know.
Do we?
I'll look it up.
Thank you. And to your knowledge, have you had any problems, complaints, issues with fights or police calls with the schedule that you have right now that is in, you close at 10, right? Have you had any problems, complaints, police calls, to your knowledge?
Gente que esté llamando a la policía por problemas.
No,
Que tú
thanks
sepas.
God, none. And sometimes we close at 9:30. At 10 we done.
Okay. And we never approved the 2:30 for you, right? We don't have any days that we have approved.
2:30 para ti antes, ¿no? Nunca se ha aprobado un horario de
No.
2:30.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Alder Carter?
Thank you. Thank you. I would like to also see the letters of support. We didn't get to see those. The emails we got at 4:30, so we didn't get to really review that. But I just want to say that when we were here back in January, Jessica came to extend the hours to 2:30 in January. Jessica met, and I sent her a letter an email on March 7th stating that thank you, stating that in September 12th, when we had that neighborhood meeting, and the neighbors were very clear that they wanted a family restaurant that closed at 10. We all know about this address, so I'm not going to go through the history of this address. But I will say that the neighbors are very skittish of having anything at bar time. She agreed to the hours that the neighborhood requested, which was 9 or 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. No sooner than, I believe it was December, or was it October, that she filed for a change of condition on operating hours. We came here in January to look at that, and those operating hours were, I believe it was Sunday through Wednesday, 10 to 11, and Thursdays through Saturday, 9 to 2:30 in the morning. That's 3 months after she received her license from this committee. And again, I believe that Captain Patterson and Attorney Zillavy and I said, you need to wait a year. And here we are again. And now it's different. At first on this license, which I sent to my constituents that are on Bell Street and the president of the Neighborhood Association, it actually says it's March, April, May, from 10 a.m. to 2:30 a.m., indicating that it was 7 nights a week, or at least whenever bar time is legal on those days. I sent that out to the neighborhood. I requested a neighborhood meeting, and they were adamant that they were not going to come to a neighborhood meeting based on the commitment that they received in September. Based on your vote in January, I sent a letter to her explaining all of this. She called me on March 8th and said, no, that's not what I meant from this application. That's not what I meant. I just want a few days. I said, send me your few days. And that was on March 8th. I received it on March 19th, and it turned out to be almost, 12, 14 days. And going past the March, April, May, from April all the way to October, including Sundays. I just feel that this is a bit disingenuous to come before this board and also for the neighbors to say, yes, I agree to 10 to 10, but 3 months later, I've changed my mind. 2 months after that, I've changed my mind. And now, going past what is on this application. This application says March, April, May, and now she wants to go from April to October. And I just feel that that is a little bit shady, just to have plain English. And I just will not support this. I think that I'm a supporter of small businesses. My family is in small businesses. But I think that my position and the position of this committee is not to formulate a business plan for the businesses that come to this committee. She made a commitment, and I think at least she should wait until the renewal to have any changes. And I will pass the mic over to Captain Patterson while I review this. Thank you.
I'm wondering, I could probably have the applicant, I'm sorry?
Unless you have a question for her.
No, I don't. I was going to ask them to sit down while we have a debate, and then if we have any questions, we can, okay. So if you'd like to have a seat, we're going to have a discussion, and if we have questions, we'll ask you to come back up. Okay, thank you. Mr. Donnelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Alder Carter, thank you for your insight. What action would you recommend the committee take?
Just 1 second. I would like to request that the interpret this conversation.
Oh, sure. I'm sorry, Mr. Donnelly.
I was asking Alder Carter what action she would recommend the committee take.
Well, my recommendation is to uphold the original conditions and have the applicant come back after she's had the license for a year.
Captain Patterson?
I don't have a whole lot else to add. I come before you with another night without a PowerPoint, so my apologies if I disappointed anyone, but yes, eventually, yes. So back in January, after the vote before the committee, we explained what we thought was kind of the agreement to the neighborhood. So really, I have not received any I guess, expressions of support for the current change of conditions request. It's been mostly frustrations that people thought there was going to be a period of time without another request for a change of conditions. So it's been fairly consistent, as you know, with my feedback based on what the neighborhood has told the police district, is that they have very consistently voiced a desire to have an earlier close time for that particular location. So with that said, I feel like that's still the case, and that's my position as well.
Mr. Kano Spina?
So, I think that waiting until the year makes sense. We have said that before. I just kind of want to also make sure that if we are going to say no, then like if the community says we don't want 11, we don't want midnight, then we need to make that very clear to that applicant. No, this is it. It's not going to be past this time. So she doesn't have the hope on in a year coming and asking for something that is not going to happen. And if we are also doing that based on a previous business and not on her running her business and that kind of stuff. So it makes sense to me because people have told, we told it's a year. I would like to see some light I would like to see maybe a midnight for a couple of days, maybe next year, a list of days, that kind of stuff. But if there's no hope, let's just say no and not have this back and forth. And can I ask a question of the captain? Have they had any problems with calls in the last?
No, it's been very, very manageable, very quiet with the 10 PM closing time. I know Jessica's had some difficulties maintaining even the 10 PM closing time for a variety of reasons. But just to touch on your main point, I think we were very clear up front with the desires of the community, and I don't know that there was any question leading into the plan for this business, so.
Alder Carter.
Yes, I just wanted to say that I did get emails from the residents, the neighbors, and most of them are, well, some of them said it too fragrantly for me to read, but most of them were happy with the current hours. They feel that this is a family business and that they do not want late night hours. Now, with that said, I think that back in September, at that meeting, they were very clear on what they wanted. And, you know, they said 10 PM. So could in the future, it be open till 11 or 12? It might be a possibility. 11 probably more so than 12. But I can tell you in the future, 2:30 probably won't fly. Or 1:30 with the residents.
Mr. Kano Spina?
Just to kind of bring it to a close, it seems to me that 10 PM is the closing time that the community is asking. One thing that I would like for you, if they are asking for that because of the previous business that was there, or is that, no, our neighborhood, this is what we want, and that's it.
Captain Patterson?
And I can't deny the transgressions of the previous two business owners probably don't have a long-lasting effect on some of the opinions there, but the community has been sharing the feedback of the current business practice and has really reflected that 10 PM closing time has been ideal for the neighborhood and has had a very positive effect for that whole street front on Bell Street.
Further discussion? And just to clarify Mr. Kano Spina's comment, when Alder Carter, when you were talking about in the future, that is 12 months from the date that the license was approved? Is that how you would define in the future?
Yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure. Alder Carter.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Further discussion? Any questions of the applicant while they're here? Okay. Do we have a motion? Or discussion? Mr. Kano Spina?
I move to deny. Second.
Okay, motion and a second to deny. Mr. Grady?
I was gonna.
Okay. Mr. Donnelly?
I want to give a recommendation, or two recommendations to the applicant. The first is in order to build goodwill with the neighbors and their confidence that the intention is to run a restaurant and not a bar, I would recommend not applying for this again until the September meeting or later. And the second recommendation is, even if you have not, even before filing an application for a change of license conditions, there's nothing stopping you from talking to neighbors and seeing how they feel. And if you bring forward an application that you already know they support, that's going to be a much smoother process.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, the motion passes. So takes us back to our agenda as published. So the next item would be an operator's license for Joseph Jones. Joseph? He was here? Okay. It's on the phone. Okay, well then we'll go to the item number 2 and we'll come back to Joseph. Lisa? So our practice, Lisa, is when applications go through the clerk's office, we have a set of criteria that they're evaluated against. And if the license trips any of those criteria, then it is submitted to the police department, and they review it, and then the applicant is asked to come here. Captain Friedman will tell you what caused your license to be pulled, and then we'll have an opportunity, committee will have an opportunity to chat with you about that.
Okay.
So, Captain Friedman.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So as the chair said, there's a process for every applicant. There are a series of guidelines that have been adopted by this body. In your case, because of a 1996 conviction for forgery, which was a felony, that is a guideline 1 flag, which is any person convicted of any felony in the state of Wisconsin. And so again, even though it's been a number of years, it brings you here tonight, and if you have anything you want to say about it or field any questions that the committee feels are relevant, now is the time.
Okay.
Thank
The
you.
only thing I'll say about it, it was 21, 22 years ago. I did make a mistake. I was in college and my roommate owed me money. It was her security deposit. So I signed it over to myself, which she had already left, and then I got convicted of forgery. So I have tried to petition for it to be taken off. They will not do that. So it is still on my record, and I paid my restitution. I was on probation for 2 years for it. I feel like I've done my time. I've had liquor license in the past for the city of Monona. I've had them in Monroe. I've worked for Walmart for 20 years. I'm established in the community. I don't have anything else on my record other than 20 years ago when I was in college. So that's all I want to say about it.
Thank you.
Mr. Donnelly? Okay, a motion and a second to approve. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
All right, so now we are up to Joseph. Were you in the room when I explained?
I wasn't actually.
Okay, then I'll mention it again. When applicants submitted an application that's reviewed by the clerk's office has a set of criteria. They go through that. If the license pops any of the test items, the police department reviews it, and then we ask the applicant to come here. So that's what's happened. So Captain Friedman will tell you what the items were, and then we'll have a chance to chat with you about that.
Good evening, Mr. Jones. So every applicant is put through our process. There are a number of different things that can cause a flag or a guideline violation. In your case, like the previous applicant, a felony conviction will automatically trigger a guideline 1. I'm sure you're well aware there are a series of felony arrests between 1994 and 2010, some involving burglary, a theft, and an intimidate witness / threaten force. So again, committee may have some questions for you. If there's anything you want to provide some context for those offenses, it's an opportunity you have tonight.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, as Captain Freeman indicated, if you would like to offer something on your behalf to the committee about those offenses,
Yeah.
here's your chance.
I said I was, I made a bunch of mistakes when I was younger. Not going to deny it. This is my second provisional license. I received one back in October, from October till December 31st when it expired. I called last week of December to find out why I hadn't received my regular license. They said, well, you had an outstanding ticket through the City of Madison Police Department. So went, talked to the judge, set up a payment plan, making my payments. They gave me another provisional license January 1st until March 31st, when about 2.5 weeks ago I called to find out why I still haven't received my license now. They said, oh, well, no one contacted you by email? I'm like, no, I didn't hear anything. Lo and behold, I had to come here, which, you know, good thing I called, because otherwise I would be sitting without a license and a job. I was injured about 4 years ago, back surgery. For the rest of my life, my orders are 20 hours a week, 4 hours a day to work, be able to sit, stand when I need. I'll never have really, I guess, gainful employment, so you could say, as far as having a 40-hour-a-week job. This company was willing to give me a chance. Like I said, I've been there for 6 months now. Haven't had one issue, no violations. And I'm just trying to get by. And that's really all I can say.
Questions of the applicant? Mr. Kano Spina?
What company you said that you're working for?
East Wash Liquor Incorporated.
And what is your position?
Sales, I guess you could say, counter. Basically, me and my wife run the East Side store.
And you just the East Side store, and does they sell, like, is this a bar or
It's
is
a
it
liquor store.
It's a liquor store.
We sell
Oh.
majority liquor, but.
To go, not to stay.
No,
not
yeah, to
stay.
go.
It's to go. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Alder Revere?
Thank you. First, I want to ask Captain Friedman a question. You didn't mention any failure to disclose convictions in your report to us, but yet on the records background, there are numerous felony convictions that are not apparently listed by the applicant on his application unless there was an attachment that we didn't receive from him.
I also didn't get an attachment. He did indicate that he had felony conviction and listed one of the felonies, and so if I remember correctly, the thought was there'd be an opportunity to discuss here, but no, I did not note that as a separate violation.
If I can.
Yeah, so let me ask you, sir, so according to the background check by the Madison Police Department, you have numerous previous felony convictions for burglary and intimidation or threat of a witness with force, and then also operating while intoxicated conviction that you didn't list.
Correct. That was, I went off of Craigslist,
CCAP.
Correct. When I was there, filling out my application, that's what came up on CCAP. It did not go any farther back than that. And I asked the gentleman there, I said, I have other things, but I don't know the exact dates or anything like that. And he said, all right, well, just put down what you know or what you remember, and we'll go from there. But it was on CCAP is where I went to, if you go on CCAP.
Where do you mean, gentlemen? Down in the clerk's office where you
Correct.
applied?
Yes.
So, is it accurate that you have numerous felony convictions
Yeah.
for burglary and
Yes.
intimidation,
Yes.
threat of a witness?
Yes.
Okay. And you didn't think that you should list any of them, even though you didn't know the exact dates?
I asked him, he said, if you do not know the dates, that not to put it on there. That's exactly what he told me.
Well,
If I don't know exactly when it was, I put down exactly what was on the CCAP,
Okay.
because I didn't know if that was something that comes up, you know. They said this was years ago.
Yes, I appreciate that. And I just tell you, I think you got very bad advice from the office of the city clerk, and I hope the deputy city clerk can follow up and remind his colleagues there that that isn't accurate advice to be giving. You should have disclosed as much as you recall. And I obviously, I'm not online right now, so I can't look at your CCAP. I trust you, I believe your veracity, but I didn't realize that felony convictions fall off of CCAP that are, you know, only 8 years old. If the date is correct, the intimidation, witness, threat, and force was in 2010. Does that sound right?
Sounds about right, which is, yeah.
So our concern here is that there is a state statute that if you are convicted felon and it substantially relates to what we're licensing you for potentially, that, you know, we have to make a finding that you're still worthy, if you will. Otherwise, there's a presumption that convicted felons shouldn't receive a license. So I don't mean to have you go down memory lane and talk about every single solitary incident here, but could you generally talk about the situations relating to the burglaries, the theft, and then the witness, threat, and force, intimidation, conviction, please?
Sure I can. There was nothing, I mean, bad choices. It was nothing involving alcohol. That's where I'm sort of confused as to why my past of, you know, doing what I did has anything to do with sales of retail sales. Like I said, I've been doing this for 6 months now, without a single issue or anything. I guess that's where I'm just lost. I don't understand what a burglary has to do with selling alcohol or any sales at all.
Yeah. Well, I was just trying to explain again, under the state statute, we need to make that finding and understand what if they are related, if there is a nexus, if you will. So you're saying that none of these incidents was in a workplace setting at all?
No.
And none of them involved alcohol?
No.
Is it a domestic related issue in terms of the incident from 2010 relating to intimidation?
No.
Can you talk about that, please?
Yeah, actually it was okay, I'll just talk openly, I guess. A gentleman had said I did something that I didn't do, and it was a charge that I was facing, and I seen him, and obviously I was out, and he was the witness, and I confronted him about it, and that was that. And he called the police and said I contacted him, and that was it.
But
Nothing physical, nothing.
And you did say that none of these were like workplace settings?
No.
And none of them related to alcohol or
No,
drugs?
no.
Okay. Can you then just perhaps lastly, could you, and I presume that this is the case because it was a while ago, but could you explain what your sentence was for the most recent felony? Like, were you on paper?
4 years probation, which I completed.
So you were discharged some time ago then?
Yeah.
What
Oh,
year
yeah.
were you discharged? Was it?
I
It
honestly,
was several years ago then?
Yeah.
Okay.
but yeah, I successfully completed it, and haven't had, I guess you could, sometimes it takes us some of us a little longer to grow up than others.
I
And,
get it.
sometimes we have to learn the hard way to, I made a lot of mistakes I wish I could take back, and
We hear a lot like about their youth, like the applicant right before you, her issue was in her youth as well. So, and then just very lastly, I realize you've only had one drunk driving conviction, is that correct?
yeah,
And so long ago, you took responsibility and were able to secure your driving privileges again?
Yeah.
You went through the
Yeah,
process of
yes.
the driver safety plan?
actually, it was, I didn't have to, they actually, I don't want to say waived it, but I didn't have to go to any classes or anything. I blew a .08 and I didn't fail because of the breathalyzer. I failed one of the alphabet backwards or something, so it was kind of a weird situation, and
But they required you to take that assessment, right?
yes,
Yeah.
I had to go to the assessment.
And
Harvey-
that's the driver
Harvey-
safety plan, yeah.
And,
Okay.
yeah, that's all that I had to do there, and it was done. And
All right, well, thank you, and just explain it as a city ordinance about if you have unpaid debt to the Madison Municipal Court, you have to make arrangements, and I appreciate
and I
you
did
doing
that,
that.
yeah.
And I hope you can keep up with the payments. I hope they
As long
aren't,
as I have a
I hope
job,
there
I
aren't too
can.
many of them for you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Grady, did you have a question? No? Questions of the applicant? Motion to grant? Have a second?
Second.
Motion to grant and a second. Okay, discussion. You can have a seat if you want. The committee may have some additional questions for you, so, thank you. Mr. Donnelly?
I request a voice vote when we vote on this one.
Okay. Further discussion? Hearing none? We will then have clerk call the vote.
Peter Siloff? Ken Ospina?
Aye.
Donnelly?
No.
Grady?
Yes.
Skidmore?
Aye.
Revere? Passes.
Okay. Motion is approved. Thank you. You, could you go around the backside and you can talk to the clerk here? Yeah. There. Okay, that takes us to item number 6, which is change of agent for Capital Petroleum. We have anyone here?
6, 7, and 8 are actually the same.
Yeah, 6, 7, and 8, so we've got,
Than we thought.
okay.
So last month, I requested separation of these items because the applicant had a significant monetary judgment that was still outstanding, and I wanted to make sure he understood that we would not be able to renew his establishment's licenses this summer. Since last month, he has satisfied the judgment in full. So I move approval of items 6, 7, and 8.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second to approve 6, 7, and 8. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. Motions are approved. So then we get to item 16, if I've got that right. Have anyone registered for 16? Nope. No one here for 16? Did I miss 11?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Oh, I did miss 11.
Nobody's registered.
Good catch. Okay, change of agent for M&P Holdings, doing business as American Madison West. Let me just check to see if we have anyone registered for 11. No one has registered for it. Anyone in the audience here for item number 11, M&P Holdings LLC? Okay, no one registered. What is the committee's pleasure? Mr. Donnelly.
I want to speak about this one briefly because I don't think I'm going to be at next month's meeting. I recommend that, well, I'm going to move referral. Actually, can I get a second on that?
Second.
Okay, so this applicant, well, no, I don't know if it's this applicant, but there is somebody with the same first and last name in CCAP with a number of charges for battery, disorderly conduct, things like that. So I wanted the opportunity to ask the applicant what his middle initial and date of birth are, because if his middle initial is D and his date of birth is December 9th, 1982, we should probably have a good conversation with him like we would with somebody applying for an operator's license who had such a criminal history. If that's not him, then no concerns.
Assistant City Attorney Allen.
Thank you. A great deal of debate is going on in my profession about CCAP and records that contain dates of birth, because essentially to unlock a person's identity and create or commit an act of identity theft, you need 3 things: their name, their date of birth, and their social security number. You have those 3 things, you have them. That is the reason why we have steadfastly required the clerk's office, if you'll look at the applicants for operators licenses, we have their dates of birth removed so that this does not get exposed in the public record. So as a teachable moment in the future, if we're going to discuss items like this, we can have the clerk's office contact the people and obtain the dates of birth if it's relevant to an inquiry that we have, and confirm whether or not it's the same person who may have criminal convictions or debts due to different government agencies.
Further discussion? We have a motion on referral to the next meeting. Yep, you already seconded it. So not any further, Alder Revere.
Thank you. A question of, if I might, the Deputy City Clerk and Captain Friedman, could you both of you confirm that indeed a background check was done on this agent? Can you, if you can't confirm that, can you at least confirm that it is hopefully standard practice that all new agent applications are referred to the record section of the MPD?
It is standard practice. I can't speak to, I believe it was done, but normally I would do these, but I was out of the office when these were run. Someone else in our office did send these around and put these on Legistar. So Mr. Donnelly did contact me beforehand, and I tried to look in our licensing email to see if I could find anything back from PD background checks, but I did not see anything, so I couldn't confirm or deny.
Thank you.
Captain Friedman
No,
has
Captain Friedman
stepped
stepped out.
So.
Well, yeah, so if I could just request, and I'll speak to him when he returns to the chamber, that, and I have no objection to referring this, but if we could get confirmation for the next meeting that indeed MPD has had a background done on this applicant, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, item number 11 is taken care of. So that then, I believe, takes us to item number 16. Do we have any registrant for 16? No registrant for item 16. Alder Revere.
I move to grant, and I can explain if I can have a second, please.
Second.
Thank you. So I informed the applicant that she did not need to appear tonight. She had a conflict. The quick history of this is, if you look at the current license, there's a parochial condition that is number 8 on her license that state, and this is in the Aldermanic District I represent, that's why I'm involved in this. It states, quote, customer delivery access to the store must be exclusively through the building entrance at the corner of North Bedford and West Mifflin Streets. I added that condition at the request of an adjacent property owner on North Bedford Street. The license holder and he, the property owner next door, have come to an agreement and understanding, and he no longer believes that this condition is necessary. And so I would urge my colleagues to approve the change of conditions. I believe it's non-controversial, and I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any. Thank you.
Questions of Alder Revere or other questions of the committee? Okay. Well, we have a motion and a second. Yep. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Takes us to item number 17, change of license conditions for Gallery 1444 LLC. And it does not look like we have anyone registered for that.
18 goes with it as well. 17 is change of conditions on the alcohol license, and 18 is the same change to the entertainment license, because there's conditions on both.
Okay. And no one is here for either of those, so committee, Captain Friedman.
I received correspondence from Alder Zellers that there's going to be a neighborhood meeting next month involving that, so I'm not sure where the miscommunication was, but it sounds like they weren't planning on coming here tonight if they're scheduling a meeting for next month, so.
That makes sense. Alder Revere.
Thank you. At the request of the Alder of the district, she did request that I make this motion. I move referral to the next regular meeting of items 17 and 18.
Second.
And it's for the purposes as Captain Friedman articulated. Thank you.
Well, I had 2 buttons to push, and I picked Captain Friedman's first. I should have picked yours, so It's not my night with the buttons. Okay, so that's 17 and 18. Motion to refer to our next meeting. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, passes. So that takes us to item 19, and we do have a registrant for 19. Ashley? Yep, okay. So why don't you introduce yourself and tell the committee what you have in mind?
Okay. I'm Ashley Morrison. I'm the owner of the Morrison Group, or doing business as Von Foss on State Street. And all we did was request a change of license, I guess it is, for an outside cafe at 127 State Street.
Okay. Mr. Donnelly?
Thank you. Are you requesting any change to your total capacity?
No.
Okay, so what is our, well, we'll come back to that later. Thank you.
Further questions of the applicant? Mr. Cano Spina?
I'm sure that I'm reading this wrong, but it says that your current capacity indoor is 0 in this form?
We have no seating indoors.
So
So I guess I am, okay, I guess I technically am asking for a capacity change in terms of seating is what I was answering for. So we have no seating indoors. We're a retail establishment that has a Class B combination, so now we're just asking to do an outside cafe.
outside seating. So
Yeah,
no seating.
outside seating.
Okay.
So no seating inside, just seating outside.
Okay, thank you.
Under the same hours of operation and everything. We're not changing anything, just adding an outside cafe. That's it.
Thank you.
Mr. Donnelly?
Thank you. Okay, so capacity isn't seating, it's just the number of people who are allowed to be in the place at the same time.
Okay.
So your existing business has a capacity of 25. So are you requesting that you have your existing capacity of 25, up to 14 of whom may be outside the patio? Or are you requesting that the total capacity be increased with indoor and outdoor limits?
I would be requesting an increase, but I didn't realize we were only at 25 inside. Because we're a much bigger space than 25 capacity.
Just what it says on the thing.
So it's an increase.
Well, then that's, I don't know if I did that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where you're getting the 25, so I'm sorry.
Alder Verveer?
Thank you. Ashley, do you have, I've obviously been to your store many times, including for private parties, receptions. Do you have only one toilet? I've never used the restrooms in your store.
Yes, there's one.
Just one
Yeah.
commode?
Well, no, there's
One
there's two. One.
So there are
that's
two toilets?
Yeah, there's two. One registered female, one male.
That might be perhaps where the number came from. What I would encourage you to do is I hope my colleagues will grant this tonight so that you can move forward with your Sidewalk Cafe license, which I know you've already been working on the administrative approval of for some time now. And then I would recommend that you, when you have a moment, either call or visit the plan review section of our building inspection division and just ask to look at the occupancy number and figure out where the 25 came from, and perhaps apply for a increase in capacity, assuming that the building and fire codes allow you to do that. Because I don't mean to call you out, but obviously I've been to events in your store where there have probably been more than 25 people in there, and you had no idea that figure existed. And in fact, for my colleagues' benefit as well, the building inspection division of fire department, as the deputy clerk knows, have been in discussion for several months now about mailing every single licensed establishment brand new capacity signage, which I think might lead to a flood of requests and questions of the deputy city clerk and his colleagues and applications at our committee here. The mailing hasn't happened yet, but But obviously, you were unaware of the 25 figure, and I'd encourage you to look at that when you have a moment. And
Could it be also that there was a change of the whole address when we took over this building?
I remember you
It
went through
was-
that
there was
problem,
a-
too. Yeah.
When they first leased this to us, it was supposed to be 2 separate spaces. The owners decided to make it, instead of 2, 1. So now it's almost double the size of what it was. So then that's what I was leasing, was the new configured space. It became, instead of 2 addresses, it became legally 1 address now. So under under that 1 address, is it 25, is what it, was each of them 25 at one point? And now they just never changed, even though it became 1? So it'd be really at least 50, is what it would look like to me, would make the most sense.
Perhaps. That's why I'm recommending you talk to, again, it's the plan review section of our building inspection division. I can remind you of who to talk to offline too, but the easiest thing would be to literally go there and go to the plan review counter. And the gentleman there, it's most like it's guys, I think, that all work there. Anyway, they would help you, especially a gentleman named Mike Van Aram specializes in licensed establishments, and he probably would be the best one to chat with to figure out if you need to request a change in capacity. But I would hope, again, that we can move your Sidewalk Cafe proposal along with whatever capacity my colleagues are comfortable with tonight, and you should, again, research the overall capacity.
Sure.
And
Yeah,
perhaps-
definitely
and
will. I'll
perhaps
do it.
visit with us again on that.
Might do it tomorrow morning.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Alder Reader Seeloff.
Just we wanted to, from this side of the room, to mention that it was in your original application that you completed, 25 was the number on there, so doesn't matter for tonight again, but just so you know what the source is.
Okay.
And it was the application for suites 102 and 103 in the same application. So again, I think you can have that reviewed and, come back if needed to correct it, but it came from that's where the number comes from.
Okay. Yeah, I was not aware of that at all, as it shouldn't be just 25. I mean,
Mr. Kano Spina.
The increased capacity outside to 14.
Motion and a second to approve the outside capacity to allow outside capacity up to 14. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, item number 20, Dublin Profits LLC. Looks like we have Stephen and James. Come on up. Mr. Kano Spina?
Well, I separated, but I think that Alder Revere also had some questions about this, so I will let them talk
Okay.
first and then, sorry.
Okay. All right, so why don't you introduce yourselves and then tell the committee what you have in mind?
My name is Jim Delaney. I'm a member of Dublin Profits LLC. We do business as Coliseum Bar.
And I am Jim's business partner, Steve Bassler, also a member of Dublin Profits LLC of the Coliseum Bar.
We submitted an application to bring some business that's currently in Middleton, bring it to Madison on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and that is Bike Night, that is currently at Quaker Steak and Lube, and then Car Night on Thursdays, which is at Quaker Steak and Lube. And we'd like to have, that business is not doing those activities anymore because they're rebranding and some various things. So we wanted to bring that to Coliseum due to our location and our capacity and parking capacity.
Mr. Kano Spina?
So I have some questions on the map, but I also have some questions about the business idea. So if I understand this correctly, this is people who come in on a motorcycle. They will be drinking.
I don't know if they'll be drinking or not. I mean, we have food, we have soda, we're a restaurant. I mean, I don't know what they'll be having for beverages.
So why do we need the license to drink outside then?
Well, I mean, there's other people that come that don't have motorcycles that might have beer. I'm just trying to follow you.
Currently outdoors, if one is to enjoy a beer, you are required to remain on the outdoor patio.
Yeah.
And at Quaker Steak and Lube's Bike Night, one of the big aspects of the camaraderie and the social fun is being able to mingle and walk and look at the motorcycles in the parking lot.
Right.
And if you want to enjoy your frosty beer on a hot summer day, you know, it makes the experience that much more enjoyable. So we're trying to achieve a similar venue, and we think that it would be rather constricting to have everybody on the current patio. So we're hoping that the ALRC would consider our request to allow beer and liquor to go beyond that patio.
So just for me to understand so you guys have some type of restrictions on, like, you know, people are on their bikes and they're drinking and they seem really intoxicated, you know, we're stopping serving and we're making sure that this person is not driving in their motorcycle after? Is that part of the business plan? Or, I know each person has his own responsibility, so I'm not, but is that like, I'm just a little concerned of saying, come on a bike and drink and then go home.
Well, it is our policy to cut people off if they've are intoxicated, been overserved someplace, or somehow are just too drunk to function. I mean, there's all the warning signs of that, all the signs that our bar staff know, and we follow those rules, and we have a really good record at Coliseum Bar, and we have a little bit older crowd, a little bit more mature crowd. We're not a college bar, and we would continue to do that, because that is how we operate. We like a nice, clean, straightforward operation.
The other question that I have is, do you have a lot of, like, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, like 5 different sections? And all those will be parking spaces for the motorcycles? Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Is there any of those parking spaces for cars, or?
There are some spots, our handicap spots are available. So we're not interfering with those. And then to the left of the building where the diagonal is, there's
We have additional parking beyond what we showed on the map as being the motorcycle parking. So we have additional parking over here, and there are some handicap parking spaces that will be available in the usual position.
So there will be people coming in cars regularly. If they don't want to be part of the motorcycle crowd that they're drinking outside, I can park my car over here and go into the restaurant with my family and do whatever. That's correct?
And then in addition to that, we have an agreement with our neighbor who owns the East Olin Business Center.
Okay.
And
That'd be up over here if I was to draw that on the map.
To another building over here.
yes, and there's about 3 acres of parking there, and he has allowed us to park there, our patrons to park there after 5.
So one more clarifying question. Maybe I'm reading this wrong, but you are not asking to increase capacity outdoors, correct? Your capacity here says 365. You're just saying, let us use the parking lot as part of that outside area, correct?
No, we are asking to increase capacity outdoors. We're not looking to change our current licensed premises, the area that's already licensed for the given capacity, but to add more area that would be licensed, and therefore having a certain set amount of people in that new licensed area.
So I have in my papers that your current capacity is 365
Yes.
outdoor?
Yes.
What are you asking?
So so based on the square footage that we calculated, I think on that copy, it may show in a key right here. So I think We're originally asking for that amount based on 5 square feet per person.
2,000 people?
Well, that's just based on the math.
Yes, that's what we put down. It's based on the math that we use 5 square feet per person. That being said,
Subtracting out this parking space.
right, after subtracting out the parking and the various deductions that you have. So that's just the math I received from the city. That being said, in talking to our alder, we've changed that and are going to request a different number.
What is that number?
It's going to be 800.
And I'm guessing that you are adding security or adding some kind of.
Yes.
Is that you have another plan to make sure that you have more staff for those 800 people?
Definitely, we definitely have to have more staff, and it will require a lot of planning on our part to staff the entrances and exits and things.
And how do you make sure that is there sidewalk in? Sorry, I haven't been in this place. So is there sidewalk by this parking lot?
There's a sidewalk on East Olin Avenue.
So right here.
Correct, that would be where East Olin is.
And are you making like barriers so people are not going into the sidewalk from the parking lot with alcohol? How you
Well,
closing that?
we're gonna have a discussion with the city attorney to just get his opinion. Sherry suggested that we talk about that now.
Well, we've got 3 people in the queue, though if I take them in order, it would be Assistant City Attorney Allen.
Thank you. Got a lot of thoughts bouncing around in my head because I'm wearing a couple of hats here, former cop, former judge, former prosecutor, and I'm told I'm a car guy. So I have actually been to both, I would like to be a bike guy too, just for the record, but my wife has said something about baseball bat and my limbs, so we won't go there. But what you're proposing sounds different than any car night or bike night that I've been to, because usually the parking lot area is roped off, and these vehicles, which are pretty much a car guy's or bike guy's pride and joy, other than their family, are on display, and usually spend a lot of time prepping them. But this sounds like it's being roped off, cordoned off, for a big drinking party. That's what it sounds like to me, and I don't see where the vehicles will be displayed, because that was pretty much the point of bike night and car night at, what was the name of the place?
Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube.
Maybe you didn't get the right map, but we did put on there where the bikes would be displayed.
Is that little trapezoid to the left?
No.
So it's,
You might, there's 2 maps. One is marked Wednesday and one is marked Thursday.
I don't have one.
Yeah, you can give them that one.
Yeah, they're
You can give them mine.
2 different sides of the paper.
I have an application on my other side.
Okay.
We're looking for Wednesday for the bikes, and that would be where the bikes would be displayed, and then Thursday.
Okay, which would be where they're
Then-
displayed? The dark flag?
Well, they are both the real maps. One is for Wednesday because we're asking for Wednesday and Thursday.
From the area
So
calculation.
Wednesday is
People could walk
Wednesday,
and enjoy
and
see
it has the
bikes.
shaded area for where the bicycles, or the motorcycles would be.
Excuse
then-
me,
Subtracted out.
excuse me just a minute.
Our spaces except for handicap.
Sir, we only want to have one conversation going at a time here, and we'd like to have the committee get the benefit of what you were talking to
Okay.
Assistant City Attorney Allen about. So, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And so you'll see the Wednesday map, and then on the other side is Thursday. Now, we didn't shade in Thursday because we have parking spaces that are already striped, and the cars would just be in the regular parking spaces. So the bikes would kind of overlay the parking spaces, but they wouldn't line up exactly with parking spaces, so that's why we shaded them in. And also the size of the bikes makes it where you can park them a little bit differently. But cars would just go in the car parking spots.
Okay, Assistant City Attorney Allen.
Are there going to be drink specials offered during this as well?
I would imagine. Yeah, we haven't gotten to the, what specials are we gonna offer? You know, wings and, you know, beer specials probably.
Because if I remember Quaker Steak and Lube, they did not have drink specials. They made a business choice not to offer drink specials.
Yeah, our business model isn't based on heavy discounting. I mean, we do offer a special once in a while that you save $1 here, $1.50 there, but it's not a coupon center. I mean, it's a tough way to make a living.
Alder Beater Seeloff.
Thank you. So as far as the capacity, so you said, you know, you're requesting 800 for the outside, both for Thursday and Friday, right?
Yes.
Okay. Give me a sense of like what's your, at your peak, what's your capacity, or how many people are outside when you have the volleyball season going on? Like, what's the peak?
On a typical summer night, I don't know that we have over 150 people. I don't know that we're even halfway to our outdoor capacity on a night of volleyball.
Okay.
As an estimate.
Thank you. And again, just to be clear on what you're requesting, just like Assistant City Attorney Allen said, you want people to use this as if it was a beer garden. Like, they can walk around the entire premises, mingle, be in between, you know, anywhere in these spaces that, again, for the motorcycle, I guess they're gonna be rubbed or whatever, but they can walk around this entire space.
Yes, and the reason we're asking that is so we don't break the law, because, you know, we don't want people to be on the patio, wanna go look at the bikes, you know, take a walk around with their friends and grab a beer and step off the patio, because now all of a sudden, we're breaking our license. And since we wanna be law-abiding and follow the rules of the city, we've come to you to ask that those people are able to step off the patio and walk around.
800 of them.
Yes.
Okay.
Alder Revere.
Thank you. It's good to see you again, Mr. Delaney.
Good to see
The-
you.
the- thank
I
you.
do have to say that I packed up protein snacks and I'm disappointed
Could-
that it's
could-
not a.
could we-
You're not last on the agenda as you
Exactly, yeah.
have been in the past. Yes, I remember. So I wanted to start by asking you, the last time you visited with us, I recall, was to ask for a change of license premise, correct me if I'm wrong, for football Saturdays in the outdoor patio area. And what else was it besides football Saturdays?
It was the Polar Plunge and St. Patrick's Day. We pulled back the request for football Saturday, because that was gonna require a law change, because apparently that's only available downtown. That's what I heard, so we pulled that request back. And we were granted for Polar Plunge and St. Patrick's Day. Now, this year, we did not use it, and as I said when I applied for it, that we may not use it, I just wanted it in case we did use it. So in 2018, we did not build that designated area for either event.
I see. So the bottom line is, even though we granted it, and my recollection is we granted it with the condition that you meet with building inspection, that is the zoning aspect of building inspection, and the fire department, you actually never, we granted it, but you never utilized it.
You did.
Yes, I
meet with
did
the
meet with, many times with the fire department and drew up plans, submitted them twice. They were approved. Great conversations with the fire department. I met with the building inspection. They told me what to do, and it was very easy to meet the requirements. It was very common sense. And so, but I never went for the temporary permit that I would have needed for planning, because we knew in advance that we weren't gonna have it on those 2 given days. But yes, I did get approval from the fire department and building.
So then pivoting back to why you're here with us tonight, your request tonight would relate to remember your application here, every single Wednesday through Thursday evening from April through October of each calendar year from 4 PM to bar time. Is that correct?
That is correct. In talking with our alderperson, Carter, we think it made sense to end at 10 instead of bar time.
Okay. So you, in essence, you're amending here on the record your request from 4 PM to 10 PM.
Yes. Yes, I am. Yes, we are.
Okay, thank you. So many, when I first saw your application, I was very confused. So I very much, we received the Wednesday, Thursday plans just when we walked in tonight. When I received your initial application in our packet for tonight's meeting, I was like, what in the world is going on here? Now it makes total sense that you're trying to do bike night and car night and what you're trying to do. I appreciate that. On your actual application that apparently Mr. Bassler filed back in February, you did leave blank, and either of you can respond, but you did leave blank the proposed capacity. Obviously, we heard tonight you're now requesting 800. Didn't hear yet tonight, though, is the 800 in addition to the 365 for a total of 1165, or is it 800 total? You understand my question? So apparently you currently have a capacity of 365 outdoors for volleyball, whatever, year-round, and you previously testified really only 100 people at the most are using your outdoor capacity for volleyball out of the 365 we've permitted you outside. So would your 800 be the new total? Is that what you're requesting, or are you actually requesting a total of 1,165?
In discussion with Alder and the police captain, we're looking for a new outdoor capacity of 800 total.
800. And I don't want to put words in your gentleman's mouth, so would it be 365 pretty much every day of the year, but then revert to the 800 only on Wednesday and Thursdays, April through October?
Yes.
Okay.
And just one point to that, I think on those 2 days that we had granted Polar Plunge and St. Patrick's Day, we had a different capacity for those days, outdoor capacity. So I didn't want to change those 2 days.
I see.
So I guess we have, it looks like we have 2 days. Polar Plunge, St. Patrick's Day is one capacity, when we build the outdoor beer garden. Wednesday and Thursday during those months is a different capacity, and then the other days of the week during the year is another capacity.
And you're comfortable with having 3 different numbers outdoors then, if we approve this?
Yes.
But you don't know offhand what your figure is for Polar Plunge and March 17th?
I don't. I'd have to look at the paperwork.
Mr. Donnelly can probably find it for us because he's very quick at research for us at our meetings. Okay, thank you. I'll move on then. And of course, you've mentioned the South District and Alderperson Carter, and so we do obviously want to hear their input momentarily here. But going back to some questions that I think you perhaps already asked, but I was hoping for more specifics. As it relates to the fencing, be it bike night or car night, can you explain in detail what type of fencing it would be if we expand your licensed premise? What kind of material would it be? How would you?
We're happy to comply with what is required by the committee. I mean, I really don't know what is the best type, but I'm sure you have lots of experience in that. I mean, would it just be snow fence? Would it be some other type? Obviously, something temporary, rope. We do have some natural barriers around because we're on a peninsula. So, there's woods on one end, railroad tracks and woods on the other. A fence on the backside of Wonder Bar that, is our property line.
I will admit too that I had never been to Quaker Steak on bike night or for car night. Could you explain what the city of Middleton required them to do for their bike or car nights in terms of fencing?
Do you remember? You know what? My recollection of where they may have had snow fencing or ropes, it evades me. I was focused on the motorcycles and everything else. But I will say that Quaker Steak had a very expansive parking lot, And I know that I can pretty much speak with certainty that they did not have any sort of fencing or roping off of their entire parking lot. That would have been a ton.
But the area where alcoholic beverages were consumed,
Which was their entire parking lot.
so you don't believe Middleton required any sort of fencing?
No, and if I went back to pictures with friends and just taking a selfie with a $60,000 motorcycle, I pretty much can speak that there were no snow fences or ropes or barriers for the lion's share of the property in the parking lot.
Okay. So then going back to the last time you visited with us, Jim, and us asking you to, at that point, when you were talking about football Saturdays, et cetera, you hadn't met yet with the fire department and zoning. In the case of your bike night, car night proposal, have you already had conversations besides with Alderperson Carter and the South Police District? Have you spoken with zoning administrator Tucker about needing to do an alteration to your conditional use permit for outdoor food and drink, or talked with the fire marshal and his fire prevention officers?
I have not talked to either party.
Okay. And how soon?
I wanted to really come talk to you first. I always think that your group is, very important, and if we don't come talk to you and kind of hash things out and get your approval, a lot of times it just really does seem to me to talk to the fire department. But I also see where if I had talked to them and had plans, that would be helpful to you too.
Well, they could at least help me with my concept of what fencing they might require under the building and fire codes. Obviously, for the football Saturday beer garden, conditional use permits, they have uniform rules relating that include fencing and so forth. What they would be interested in here, I'm not certain, or what's required under their codes, their respective codes. Let me just ask you this in closing, and then maybe I'll have a question after we hear from Alderperson Carter and Captain Patterson. But if we did not take final action on this evening, so that you could do further conversations with colleagues in City Hall and fire and building inspection / zoning, would that provide a hardship if your final approval from us was in April? Or, obviously your application said you wanted to start in April. It doesn't say when in April, but.
We're actually going to, because of the time it takes to plan and get approval and everything, our first bike night will be May 9th.
May 9th.
And, yes, and we're hoping to, receive approval so we can tell. We have a partnership with Harley Davidson and Madison, and there's some other partners, that help sponsor the evening. And so we would like to, get on with them and finalize our agreements and conduct business.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Before we hear from Alder Carter or Captain Patterson, does anyone else have any questions of the applicant? Mr. Grady.
Yes, the capacity, or the percent of alcohol in food, I would think that it would be the other way around, 70 alcohol, 30 food.
No, we are first and foremost a restaurant. We serve an absolute ton of food.
Okay.
We have banquets. There is a lot of food that goes out the door. And it's really good.
The lunch crowd comes in, they spend a lot of money, and a lot of those folks are not consuming alcoholic beverages. So I think that's a big factor too.
Okay, well, why don't you guys have a seat? We're going to chat, and if any questions pop up, we'll ask you to come back up. So, Alder Carter?
Thank you. Yes, we did reduce the capacity. I think that the original capacity for outdoors of 1,000 people was just too high. I feel that some fencing, and I'll let Attorney Allen talk about the beer garden and regulations, because I don't know anything about that. But I do feel that there needs to be some fencing, and I would like to have the condition that it closes at 10. And I think Captain Patterson has a few things to say. I would also, sorry, John, I would like to come back and revisit this with them to see how it goes, what's the reaction of the neighborhood. This is very new to this area. I mean, not noise-wise, but this would be a new event to this area. And they already get bombarded with the AEC and also Olin Turbo events that happen there. So I'm very concerned about the noise level. Thank you.
Captain Patterson?
Thank you. So I'm a very visual person, and I'm still struggling, I guess, with how the beer garden will be configured in such a way that the bikes will be able to enter and exit without issue and safely. And the other element to consider is that they are also interested in outdoor entertainment and having live bands out there. And so, you know, I'd really have to lean on my sisters and brothers on the fire department to help us out with what the capacity may be with the addition of a stage in one of the corners of your map as well. So I really have to defer to Attorney Allen on if there are types of fence. I don't know the answer to that question. But the intent is to serve alcohol outside. Those are the two squares with the X's in the center. Those are outdoor bars. So I guess I'm not telling you anything other than I still have some questions as to how this would be configured with the vehicle entrance and exits and still being a legal beer garden.
Alder Reader Seeloff.
Thank you. Couple additional questions. Alder Carter, so was there actually a neighborhood meeting about this, or was it just a notice that they were applying to?
There was not a neighborhood meeting regarding this. That's why I want to have a neighborhood meeting regarding this. I think that, quite frankly, I think that the Coliseum has been good neighbors for many, many years. I think that, again, my concern was the noise, especially for this neighborhood, and that we would like to that's why I want to revisit it. And if referring it doesn't jeopardize their plans to have bike and car night, then we would have a neighborhood meeting prior to your next meeting. But I didn't hear them say whether it would hinder or not, so.
Assistant City Attorney Allen.
I have very little to offer here other than Alder Revere asked about the fencing that was in place in Middleton. In my recollection, and I've been to that event on multiple occasions, is that there, as the gentleman said, there is no fencing. At times, they had a rope separating off the area where the cars and bikes were being viewed. At other times, they merely had some staff members out there to control the flow in and out of that area. And to talk to the captain's concern, as a driver of a Corvette that was prone to leap forward when you touched the accelerator, it was kind of a little bit, and I'll give you a heads up, a little bit of an act of faith to move forward when you had people crossing in that area. They did a very good job, I think, in Middleton of trying to control that, but it's certainly a safety concern that I have. The fencing requirements, I think that's something to work out with planning and zoning. I do want to say that this event, as has been done in the past, I believe that in the last couple of years, they've had live music at Quaker Steak and Lube for these events. It's certainly, I looked up on their past advertisements, they advertise live music. But they tend to be somewhat of a mix between people who own cars and bikes and are hard-charging drinkers, but they tend to be a minority. It tends to be a family event. Moms and dads looking at vehicles they own or other vehicles that they appreciate and bringing along the kids to bring them up in that. It becomes a lifestyle like any other hobby, if you will. I do think there are concerns that I'd like to have our prosecutors look at. I'm not sure what Middleton's experience was with intoxicated operators leaving the premise, if that became an issue for them. But certainly this is a very unique event. And to some extent, as former prosecutor, former police officer, I'm really concerned about any time we couple alcohol and vehicles. I think from a prosecution standpoint, although I love going to these events and seeing cars, I really question what type of message we're sending to children when they see these hot cars and people walking around with alcohol in close proximity to the vehicles.
Alder Peter Seeloff.
Thank you. Do we have additional questions? I was just going to make.
Mr. Grady is also in the queue, but you were in before, so.
So maybe it's a question, whether there was any conversations about these bars outside with the applicants, Alder Carter or Captain Patterson? Because, I mean, that is not the model I remember. I didn't spend as much quality time as you may have in the Middleton location, but I was there a couple of times. And I certainly do not recall at all alcohol being sold outside. That was not the model. This is a beer garden, as we would know it in the city of Madison, right?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay, Mr. Grady and then Alder Rivera.
My question's for Attorney Allen. We have another beer garden on the east side, and I realize that's on public property, but, you know, they seem to be treated much differently than, you know, the proposal is here. And I just wondered, is that going to be problems for us in the future?
I don't think so, because actually, I think that beer garden that you're talking about was highly scrutinized, and part of that was there was a great deal of communication with the neighborhoods, and what we saw was a great deal of public discussion over the appropriateness of having a beer garden in a park. And there were people who were staunchly opposed to it. This body can always act to grant a license or to deny the license as long as that decision is based upon its exercise of discretion to promote the public safety, health, and welfare of the community. So I don't think that that's an issue. Each license applicant comes before you on its own merits, and you can look at not only whether the operation will be safe, but what type of message it sends that may be inconsistent with the public health, safety, and welfare, or consistent with that.
Alder Rivera.
Thank you. I do have one additional question for the applicants, if I could, please. Thank you. Could you go into more detail about your plans, if any, for outdoor entertainment?
Well, much like the Quaker's Steak and Lube in the past, they would have a live band, you know, be it country themed or, you know, a rock band. And I've been in contact to check on availability of many of the same bands, you know, that these bands, they enjoyed the venue of Quaker Steak and Lube, and these same people were excited to hear that there was the possibility that we may be able to continue that venue. And I heard the venue referred to as a unique type of event, and it is, and I'm really optimistic and hopeful that we can continue to carry the torch for the folks that enjoyed that venue. So to answer your question, some of the same bands that have played in the past, maybe you've heard them. I could mention a couple by name, you know, be it Wheelhouse or Pilot. There's a couple pretty well-known bands in the state of Wisconsin.
Yeah, I wasn't getting at the genre or type of music. I just wanted to confirm that indeed you were planning to have live entertainment, or at least some amplified music. And it sounds like regularly, so it would be for both bike night and car night?
Wednesday nights would be the venue that would include a live band. Thursday night would be the classic car night that we would not have any sort of entertainment to speak of at this time.
So Wednesday nights, would the entertainment perhaps go till as late as 10 o'clock?
In conversation with our alderperson, that's the intention, is to cease any live music at 10 p.m.
I see. Well, let me just say that, I don't know if I'll make this motion or not, but it seems to me that with the entertainment component alone, just based on my anecdotal recollection over the years of the complaints about noise from Willow Island alone in that neighborhood, that it seems to me that probably a neighborhood meeting is in order, rather than us supporting your application tonight. I think referral is in order to allow for Alderperson Carter and perhaps our colleague Alderperson Eskridge, if I remember the boundary lines. I believe this is, the area impacted would be 2 aldermanic districts perhaps, or? Yeah, so Alderperson Eskridge probably would want to be involved in a neighborhood meeting like this. It just seems to me that, again, anecdotally, my aldermanic district's the other side of Monona Bay, but it seems to me that there have been a lot of conversation over the years and concerns about noise from, the Alliant Energy Center grounds, Willow Island area, affecting that neighborhood. And so to have this on a work night, albeit ending at 10 p.m., I think we would kind of be, frankly, no offense, please don't take any offense, but derelict in our duty by, at least I couldn't vote for it tonight without more public community input, especially with the entertainment piece. And I think if we do refer you for a month and have you come back to our April meeting, that it would allow you the time to meet with the zoning administrator, Matt Tucker, to figure out how exactly you'll need to alter, and that's the legal term, alter your conditional use permit for food and drink, because it'll certainly require an alteration. He might even say, although he certainly would consult with Plan Commissioner and Alder Carter, that he might consider it a major alteration, which means you go to the Plan Commission with Alderperson Carter and her colleagues there, or he could determine it's a minor alteration. It's done all administratively on paper. But I think you need to have that conversation with the zoning administrator, and then not to mention then the fire marshal Ed Rockriegel, who you obviously had a very positive experience working with him and his officers when you were trying to proceed with the concept for football Saturdays and polar plunge and St. Patrick's Day. So maybe we didn't give you the opportunity to articulate what hardship this would cause you. So maybe I should, in closing, ask you one last time, is there anything you want to say that would, to try to convince us not to ask you to visit with us again in a month and allow for a neighborhood meeting?
And that would put us at a final approval or denial of our application on, would that be April 10th?
The deputy city clerk can confirm, but generally that would take you then to the common council meeting, the first meeting in May. So your final approval, correct me if can you confirm, Mr. Verbeek?
May 1st would be the common council meeting.
Okay, so the common council would give you final approval conceivably on May 1st. And that's if you don't have to go to the plan commission for a major alteration of your conditional use permit. And again, Alderperson Carter can help you very much with that alders of the district are very influential in helping to determine whether or not it's a major or minor alteration of a conditional use permit. But, so to be honest with you, that could delay you in any event if you have to go to the plan commission. And I don't mean to frighten you or scare you, I just wanted to acknowledge that might be a possibility too. So in any event, if you do need to go to the plan commission, obviously us voting tonight is premature because you'll be delayed, because you have to come back to this room to meet with the plan commission. I mean, I could ask Alderperson Carter, have you had any conversations with Matt Tucker or his colleagues in zoning about this aspect of their application?
A few minutes with the applicant.
Oh, sure.
Okay, thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, if it's in order, I would move to table this item then and proceed with other items.
Okay. Motion to put this on the table? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So that then takes us to item 22.
have one opposition.
So, let's see. We have one registrant, Neil. So why don't you introduce yourself? And
Sure.
I'd like to have you keep your comments to 3 minutes, if we can.
My name's Neil Helene, and I'm the landlord of this property at 419 State Street. And the current occupant is here. The tenant, although he's not personally running the business at this time, he has subleased it once before, and now he has two other groups of people operating the business. They disturbance at the property, having a DJ on the property. There are 4 apartments up above, and the police have been called once, and I've had several complaints from the tenants regarding the noise in the establishment, and I would recommend that this entertainment license is denied. The current tenant is behind in his rent, has violated the lease several times. We are working on an agreement to cure, and if that's not done by the end of this month, we will be going to court for eviction. So that's the kind of the very short summary of where things stand with this property. Do you have any questions?
While Mr. Helene is up here, does anyone from the committee have any questions? Alder Revere?
Thank you. Well, first of all, we'll be referring this. We will not be, I'm confident there won't be a motion to adopt this license tonight. I'd like Captain Friedman to give you an opportunity to hear what he and his colleagues in the Central Police District are trying to do to deal with this establishment and the problems that it's causing. Could you just confirm for me, because I don't think I've had the pleasure of meeting you before, so I'm the alderperson for that district. And I thought, what's your name again, sir?
Neil Helene.
And so I thought Mr. Labadidi owned the building.
No.
Did he ever own the building?
Never.
You've always owned it?
I've owned it for 40 years.
Oh, so you were the landlord for Andy at Yellow Jersey?
Andy
Okay.
Yellow Jersey, yeah.
Okay, maybe we've met, and I apologize, I don't remember.
Probably have.
I've certainly heard your name before. Yeah. Well, I was always under the impression that Abdul had purchased the property and he was the landlord.
No.
So he's not the landlord, okay.
No, he's not the landlord.
Can I ask you, have you had conversations with anyone from the police department or the city attorney's office about this?
I've spoken with the city attorney's office, and the current liquor license applicant, Alberto Santon, I can't remember his last name anyway, is not currently on the property. He
ceded control to these new people?
It's in control of the new people. So
illegally, of course.
Pardon?
Illegally, if that's accurate, that he ceded control. That's not allowed under our ordinance.
Accurate.
I'm sorry for the difficulty. So if Mr. Chair could, I'd like Captain Friedman to explain the situation as he understands it at either now or in a few
We can
moments.
do that in a minute. If anybody else has a question of Mr. Helene, we can have him sit down and then Captain Friedman can chat.
Could I just confirm one last thing with the applicant, not the landlord? When did you say that you would be moving for eviction, most likely? Did you give a timeline?
We are working on an agreement to cure the defaults.
Mm-hmm.
If that is not agreed on by the end of this month, by the end of March, then I'm going to sue for eviction collection.
I understand. Okay, thank you. Again, I'm sorry for all the difficulty you're dealing with here. Thank you.
I show 3 people in the queue. Allen, Alder Breeder Seeloff, and Mr. Kano Espina. Mr. Kano Espina, I think.
Well, my question was, why can't we just vote to deny the application? I just don't understand why we need to refer. The person is not here, and
Well,
So if other people need to speak, but I just like, I don't understand.
Mr. Helene is a.
That's what I'm saying.
Is a community, a member of the community. He's
I
the owner
understand.
of the building,
Yeah, but-
and
but-
he
but-
registered to speak, so we were just gonna ask
Oh,
him some
sure,
questions,
yeah.
and the committee would normally then
But Mr.
debate.
Alberto Santos is not here, correct? Or whoever the person that is doing this business is here.
We have only one speaker registered, and it's Mr. Helene.
So why do we need to refer if we can just deny it?
Well, we can.
Sorry.
We can discuss that, but,
Yes.
but we will let the
Yes.
speaker have a seat, so, great. Okay, now the committee can debate what it would like to do. Mr. Alder Rivera.
So, thank you. My thought with referral was actually, I'm not going to read this, she might even consider it confidential. I won't read an email that I received from Assistant City Attorney Zillavi, but that was sent to myself and the Police District folks. But in essence, she met with these applicants and informed them that there are concerns and that told them not to come tonight. And Mr. Verbeck's aware of this, I believe, because they need to file, and I don't know if they have filed additional paperwork, if they actually are going to have control and operate the establishment. So, so again, Attorney Zillavi did meet with them apparently just last week on March 15th, and that's why my thought was referral, if something can be worked out with the landlord, and it sounds like perhaps there still might be. I have no problem with placing this on file tonight and having them reapply for an entertainment license and all the necessary paperwork that they are required to complete. It's unclear to me, though, if indeed Mr. Santos is still involved, which he alleged he is, in this meeting with Attorney Zillavi and the new people involved with the business. He represented to her that he's involved, he's added these partners, and if that's the case, it would be a change of corporate control. If he's not involved, and obviously we require a lease with a new application, and it would be a new application. So again, I was just trying to give them the benefit of the doubt by suggesting referral perhaps, but I'm comfortable with placing it on file as well. But given what we heard, I do again think that Captain Friedman should update all of us on what the situation is and what steps the police have made to try to control the situation there and the disturbance that have been caused and the violations, at least the alleged violations of the current license.
Thank you. So this hasn't been a call generator for us. We had met with the applicants, I think Sergeant Berkovitz, I want to say last month, sometime in February, to discuss their interest in exploring some other activities, some entertainment. They were provided some guidelines, some in congruence with their current application. They had, but we were unaware of the current issues with who is actually in control and who's running the establishment until that particular request to change, I think, their entertainment license came through. And at an unrelated meeting, Jennifer was there, the alder was there, we discussed it, and we realized that there was a problem. So moving forward, we will monitor if they're violating their conditions. They were given clear instruction by the assistant city attorney, what they can and can't do. That's something we'll continue to monitor. But barring that, much of this came to light fairly recently, and we're just following up on it as we would any other location.
I might add that in addition to what Captain Friedman and Oliver Veer mentioned about the discussions, Assistant City Attorney Zillavi had also contacted me with regard to setting up an alert meeting. So there's a fair amount of stuff going on. So certainly if the committee was inclined to wait to make a decision, there's a lot queued up that could help for discussions in the future.
So last week, Assistant City Attorney Jennifer Zilvey and some of the gentlemen that are involved with this application came down, and I think their original intent was to have a new LLC take over, but then when they realized they would need to pay a reserve fee and do a lot of other things, they are leaning more towards changing their officers in the current LLC. And I believe this agenda already went out, and I think their hopes was then to kind of take it all at once with this entertainment license, which is why they're not here today. I think they're also going to change their liquor beer agent as well with that.
Alder Breeder Seeloff.
I mean, it seems like with all of these things that are going on, it's best to place this one on file. I mean, if they come back with some other, these other issues get resolved somehow and they come back and they want to do another application, but it seems to me just kind of punting this to our next meeting, so it's one other thing we have on our agenda.
Right.
When we know with the current, there's a lot of moving parts. So that's what I mean.
Is that a motion? Mr. Kano Espina.
I move to place on file.
Motion and a second to place the item on file. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So that takes us to item 23. And I know Alder Skidmore wanted to chat briefly about this, and so did Alder Breeder Seeloff. So Alder Rivera is in the queue first, so Alder Rivera.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I move to remove agenda item number 20 from the table, please.
Okay. Item. Okay, so where, oh, they're back, okay. So Alder Carter, you and the applicants have chatted?
Yes, we have. We're going to refer this to the next meeting. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yes, we've come to an agreement to refer this to the next meeting.
Okay. Mr. Donnelly.
I move that we refer this to the next meeting.
Motion and a second to refer this item to the next meeting. All those, I'm sorry, we have two people in the queue, three people in the queue. Mr. Kano Espina.
Is it okay to make comments or discussion, right? This is the time?
Well, we're
Discussing?
going to refer it, so if you're speaking to the referral, yes? Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
I just want to make it clear for the record that I don't think this type of business plan goes with the safety and health and safety of the community. The idea of having a bunch of people, 800 or 1,000 people with motorcycles or cars, like Attorney Allen expressed, what is the message that we're sending about drinking and driving? I'm just concerned about that whole plan. So I will be very hesitant next time when this comes to the table.
Alder Breeder Seeloff.
Again, I'm making this comment in the spirit of sharing where we are now, so that as you think through the next iteration of this, you have clarity. So I just would go on record to say that I would not have supported at all the current plan, and there needs to be major modification to the current plan for the reasons that were expressed by Mr. Cano Espina. So I think I would really encourage you to come back with some serious modification to this whole idea. And I would also say that I keep trying to go back and think about how the Middleton event was, and I'm 99% certain that there was no alcohol being served in the parking lot. Not only that there wasn't a bar, that you couldn't just walk off the building footprint, which includes, an outdoor patio, but I'm 99% certain that you couldn't just walk around the parking lot with alcohol in your hand. But I may be wrong with that, but again, I really don't think this is a good idea. And the other thing that I would say is that this is a really busy intersection. So I would also encourage us to really, I know we mentioned Mr. Tucker, but I think traffic engineering should probably be looped into this. I'm just worried about how busy this intersection is and, again, overconsumption of alcohol and this intersection.
Assistant City Attorney Allen.
I don't have a vote, nor do I have the power to make motions or amend motions, but I would ask that maybe somebody on the body consider having the applicant meet with the lead prosecutor for the city's prosecution unit and the ALRC prosecutor so that they can hear firsthand rather than through my confessedly biased view of this directly from the applicant and how they propose to handle what will be obvious concerns to both of those groups.
Mr. Donnelly?
Is it actually in order to require that they do that? Or would it just be something to recommend?
Well, you could go either way. I think you would be within your rights as a licensing body to require such a meeting occur. Or you could strongly urge them to, and if they fail to follow through, that would be something you could factor into your decision-making as well.
I believe that these are responsible operators who are in good faith trying to bring about a plan that we are very leery of. I will strongly recommend that they take Attorney Allen's advice, and of course it will be taken into account whether they choose to take advantage of that opportunity.
Alder Rivera.
Thank you. I'd like to ask the applicant a question, please, on the motion to refer, which I support. I see you over there wanting to address us. Could I just ask you, and then you can add whatever you want to this, the response to my question, but given all the feedback you've heard tonight in your sidebar conversation with the Alder and the police, could I ask you gentlemen what you see your next steps as being from here, assuming that we do refer you to our April meeting?
Yes, we'll speak to the fire department, and then I just wanted to ask Alder Donnelly that specifically that recommendation that Attorney Allen made, what was it exactly? Just so I can remember it exactly.
Meet with the city prosecutor. Is that?
Giving the names might help too.
Yes, I think what's easiest for you is the requirement or the request is that you meet with the lead prosecutor for the prosecution unit and the ALRC prosecutor. If you want to email me at rallen, R-A-L-L-E-N, at cityofmadison.com, I'll facilitate that for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
In answering Alder Revere's question, our next step is to do what Alder Donnelly suggested, meet with the fire department. We're here to comply with city requests and follow the rules. And that's one of the reasons we put such a high number there, because I had that formula from the fire department when we received the permission for the polar plunge in St. Patrick's Day, and it was 5 square feet per person. So when I did the math that I had from the fire department on a previous occasion, that's how the formula worked out. So I just followed that formula and then just put it down on paper. I don't know if 1,000 people will show up or 400. I mean, that's the nature of business, right? But I put that down because I don't want to get caught short that I just said, oh, maybe 300 will show up, and then 302 show up, and now I'm in violation. I don't want to be in violation. I'm trying to follow the rules. So I just followed that math, and that's all I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to get multiple thousands of people there for a big rock concert or anything. We're just a neighborhood bar, and margins are thin, competition is tough, and we're just trying to make a living. And we have an enormous responsibility to our employees who pay mortgages and do all the things people do to stay busy, and that's all we're trying to do. So it's nothing bigger than that. There's not a, even though that's awfully big, but there's no other motive than just trying to be a responsible operator and have a successful business for the long haul. I'd like to add that on the Quaker Steak and Lube, they did have outdoor kiosks, and they sold beer, and I believe it was in the silos. So they had people, they were in ice, and they sold them there. And then you were able to walk around and chat with your friends, you know, go outside the building or the patio with your beer, watch the band. Maybe you don't want to watch the band anymore, you could go look at the bikes or the cars, you know, have conversations with other car enthusiasts and things. What we're trying to ask for here, what we are asking for, is just that you can actually step off the licensed premises, the patio, and walk over to the car with the beer without setting your beer down. That's all. That's really all we're trying to do, is just make it simple for people and just have a neighborhood area where you can do that. It is a lifestyle, like Attorney Allen said. I have collector cars. Steve is a motorcycle enthusiast, Harley Davidson specifically. These are all really good people, and they spend a lot of money on their toys, and they like to show them off, and people like to look at them for people that can't afford that stuff. And it's a great event, and it's a neighborhood event, and we'd really like your consideration to pass this, and we fully intend to work with Captain Patterson and Alder Carter and have a good event and be good neighbors.
Thank you.
And just to add to what Jim had said, Alder Revere, in our next steps, we, in discussion with Alderperson Carter, plan to have a neighborhood meeting, as has been suggested by multiple people here. And the car buffs and the motorcycle enthusiasts out there, they're great people. If you have been to the Quaker Steak and Lube, it's a place I had a lot of fun at. It was very responsible. I did have a beer, and I think that the Middleton Police Department, I don't know what challenges they may have had, but I never saw any issues. And I think those are the people that we want to come to the Coliseum and continue that venue. Like Jim said, they're a great bunch of people, both the car aficionados and motorcycle enthusiasts, and we'd love to have them at the Coliseum. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Mr. Cano Espina?
So I just want to make, for the record, I think you guys are a good business. I'm not saying that you're bad or you're trying to do anything wrong with the community. You're running a good business, you're trying to make money. I just think the idea of motorcycles or cars and alcohol, it doesn't fit into my head. So, but nothing against you guys personally or your business.
Thanks, guys. You can have a seat. Okay. Very short.
Yes, sir. Just because, you know, I certainly understand what you're saying, and, you know, people get to usually use some sort of motor transportation to get everywhere, so every establishment, every restaurant, they use motor transportation to get there. If they have a soda or a beer or a hamburger, you know, they're maybe 100 feet from their car, right, from the parking to the inside or to the patio, and all we're asking is that they don't have to stay X number of feet away, that they can actually go up to these things, because people treat them as art.
I hate to cut you off. We've heard the discussion. I think you get the point where the committee is at. Thanks. Further discussion? I will add just one of my own comments. I've been to the event many times at Quaker Steak and Lube, not as an interested buff, but when I would be on duty as a paramedic, we never got a call there or after it. at least while I was on duty. But one thing I would point out to the applicants that from knowing both of those locations very well, the real estate is different where Quaker Steak and Loop was located and where your establishment is located with regard to proximity to residential areas, which there were virtually none out in Middleton. It wasn't an easy place to get to. There was no easy on and easy off, whereas at your site, there is an easy on and easy off, and there was no large public park right across a busy thoroughfare. So I would suggest from a public safety standpoint, you kind of factor that in as well and maybe look at your plans. Conceptually, I didn't see many people walking around with beer out in the parking lot. There were a lot of folks that showed up to look at the vehicles. So, alcohol might not be as big an issue, but that's just my 2 cents. So, okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. Alder Breeder Seeloff.
Oh, you're on item number 23, right?
I'm sorry?
You're going to go to 23?
Yes.
I was pressing in advance of that.
Yes.
We're on 23?
Yeah, we're on 23.
Move referral?
Second.
To
Okay.
the April meeting.
Motion is second to refer item 23 to our next meeting.
And you've seen the email I shared with everybody. I just really feel like I don't want to spend a lot of our precious time together discussing something that's not yet before us, so.
And I did ask the clerk to circulate to you the current version of what the map looks like, but I understand from Alder Skidmore that's under evaluation as we speak. So it's FYI, but it may well be different when we get together in April. So any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Item 24. We have one speaker, Brian. So introduce yourself, tell us what you have in mind.
My name is Brian Caribou, owner of Beer Rock, new tavern. We were actually approved at the last meeting, but due to a clerical error, we had, what's listed here is the wrong license we applied for. We want Class B beer, Class B liquor.
Questions of the applicant? Oliver Veer.
It pains me to ask this, but it's a question for Attorney Allen first. I just noticed it tonight sitting here at my place. Isn't our agenda still noticed inaccurately as it relates to what they're applying for? So they made application for a combination Class B. This is the way it was worded in error last month. We approved it as the applicant said last month for beer and wine only. And then here we are again tonight where it still is worded as Class B beer, Class C wine only.
Right. I don't know how deep you want me to dive into the
You don't have to-
legalities.
I know
of
you're
it.
an expert on the open meetings law, just try to be brief. It's your response to my
Oh,
question.
be brief.
I know it depends always.
We're fine.
Oh, wonderful, thank goodness. And that's because of,
Oh, now you want me to elaborate?
well, I was hoping you'd give me more than one phrase.
Yeah. You're right. This is an open meetings question. There's a case very similar to this involving Lake Mills, I believe, where there was some misstatement about the license applied for, and what was happening was a change of license premise, and the courts there said, look, it was clear something was going to happen in the way of licensing, alcohol licensing pertaining to this business. Even though it was somewhat misleading, it still gave enough notice that people interested in that subject should have shown up and should have voiced their opinions. So
Very good.
I think from an open meeting standpoint, we're fine. And the only other question would be about the orange sign, which I understand was issued properly and completed properly, so.
Great news, thank you. And Mr. Verbeck would like to add.
And if I could, it was my clerical error the last time, I corrected it, and the Legistar file is correct. It says Class B combination liquor and beer. We sent postcards that say that, to that effect. And then for whatever reason, it just didn't carry over into this agenda reflecting that. But everywhere else, it's reflected and was noticed properly.
So you'll make sure that the common council agenda will be Class B combination?
I will.
Okay, thank you. So while you're here, and I appreciate you coming 2 months in a row, sir, can I ask you a couple of questions? I hate to do this to you, but, so on, my first question is, it's very similar to, in a way, the last conversation about outdoor food and drink at the Coliseum Bar, and that's the zoning aspect and requiring a conditional use permit. Have you researched all that, or is?
We're in the process. We've done the requisite pre-application meeting. We're in the process of putting in for an outdoor permit.
So you will be applying for a conditional use permit?
Yes.
Okay, very good. And then my other question really is just, I appreciate your business plan. It was very well done and detailed. Throughout both the application and the business plan, you used the word tavern, and admittedly, at least the very sample menu that you provided was rather limited for food, but yet your percentages are 51% food, 49% alcohol. Could you explain how you came up with that percentage and why you use the word tavern throughout the whole application?
I guess that the food we're going to serve, Beer Rock, it's like a pasty or whatever. We anticipate selling a high percentage of those. It's what we're going to be known for. It's a regional dish, and we also plan to sell takeout or delivery, which I think will factor into the reason we've put that percentage down. It's just a projection. We use tavern. We're not brewing our own beer. We think the food will be a little bit more featured than the beer, although, I mean, as you can see, almost 50-50. It was a projection. And if it doesn't turn out that way down the road, be happy to change it.
Yeah, so we'll ask you the question every year at renewal time,
Okay.
what your percentages are.
Yeah.
So obviously, it might very well change, and you haven't opened yet to figure out what your experiences are. So thank you for your responses. I'm glad you did all your research on the conditional use permit requirements for the outside patio, and I don't know, are there other questions, Mr. Chair?
We have one other person in the
Then
queue.
I won't make the motion yet, then.
Mr. Kano speaking.
Thanks for your patience again, and thanks for coming back twice.
Okay.
I'll move to grant a combination Class B license.
Okay, motion and a second to grant a combination license. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Takes us to our last page of the agenda, item 27, Full Belly LLC, doing business as 10 Fox, and we have Greg Neal. Greg, you want to step up? So we know you're Greg Neal, so why don't you tell the committee what you have in mind?
As stated, I'm Greg Neal, and we'll hopefully be taking over the Freiburg location on Monroe Street. My wife and myself run that as a restaurant establishment as it is now with a different food type. So,
Alder Peter Seeloff.
Thank you. So we received an email from Alder Eskridge with conditions that I believe you agreed to. So just want to make sure on the record that you tell us whether you agree with the conditions that she expressed, which was the hours Monday through Wednesday of 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., Thursday and Saturday 10 a.m. to midnight. No, 10 a.m. Yeah.
She made a mistake.
Yeah,
It's
to midnight, I'm like. And Sunday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m.
That's correct.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Alder Revere.
Yeah, I had the same question, and I'm sorry you had to sit here all night. That's why I had to separate you from the consent agendas, because we received this late email from the alder of your district. So I just wanted to confirm one more time. So, because what Alderperson Eskrich's times do not correspond directly with
The business.
with what your application requests. So why don't you just tell us what, because it's state law that you can serve alcohol till bar time under state statute unless you voluntarily agreed for us to impose a condition on you that you have shorter hours than bar time. So why don't you just tell me the closing hours for each day of the week, please?
Okay, so Monday through Wednesday would be 11 p.m.
11 p.m.
Yep. Thursday through Saturday, 12 p.m.
Or 12 a.m.
I'm
midnight.
sorry. Yes, yeah. Thanks for correcting me. Yes, 12
So
a.m.
Thursday night,
Yep.
Friday night, Saturday night, midnight.
Yeah, correct. And Sunday, 4 p.m.
Okay, very good. Thank you for your patience being here till the end of the agenda. And good luck with your new place.
Thanks.
Further questions of the applicant, Alder, Mr. Kano Espina.
Move to approve? With the conditions, move to approve with the closing times?
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
Mr. Donnelly?
Second.
Okay, Alder Reader Seeloff.
So just for the record, Monday through Wednesday, 11 p.m., Thursday through Saturday, midnight, Sundays, 4 p.m.
Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Good luck, sir. Okay, item number 28, report on calls for service. I see Captain Friedman's already departed, so we can't ask him any questions. I assume there are none. And summary of licenses issued, so it's up to you, Mr. Verbeck, how much time you want.
Well, I have nothing to add.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Nothing. Alder Rivera.
In terms of future meetings, is there any update as to either the special meeting with the presentations by the university and/or scheduling our separation meeting? And what, in terms of the May separation meeting that I know Mr. Verbeck has been polling for, I sent him a note, as he knows, where I think, based on my early communications with Attorney Zillavi and Captain Friedman, and given our history of going with all-nighters with just one separation meeting each of the last many years, that it would do all of ourselves a favor, both for ourselves and the applicants, the license holders, if we had two separation meetings, because there will be an intent to separate all of the renewals in the 600 block of University Avenue corridor, and I think that in and of itself could be one night, or just downtown one night, and then the rest of the city another night. So I just wanted to get that on have everyone realize that that is a likelihood, and see if there's any update on scheduling any of the special meetings or not.
Assistant City Attorney Allen, then Mr. Donnelly.
As long as we don't digress from talking about scheduling matters, we're not violating the open meetings law. It's not on the agenda. That's why I just want to make clear that we have to limit the discussion to scheduling. Don't forget that there's nothing in the ordinances that prohibits Saturday meetings. The Police and Fire Commission has used this very effectively to get through long-winded agendas. People tend to be straight to the point when they're giving up a Saturday.
Interesting. Mr. Donnelly.
I like Mike's idea.
Thank you.
Yeah, that is, that as far as, especially since there would be so many coming out, perhaps with State Street as a function of the moratorium, that, thanks for the heads up, and I think that that's an excellent idea. And with regard to the special meeting, we were on target to get that going in March. The Health Department, which was doing a major data analysis that was going to be part of that, ran into some huge problems doing that. So it kind of delayed things a bit, and then the moratorium came up. So the thought was that we'd wait to see where that is and try to get them kind of at the same, not the same meeting, but kind of in the same time frame. And I realize that with the moratorium and that plus the separations, it's going to be busy in April and May, but we'll do the best we can to schedule that.
Thank you for that explanation. Jim, did you want to add anything on how much success you're getting with the polling that you're doing?
Yeah, for the meeting for presentations, I don't know if you guys got anything on this, but I did mark in the doodle poll the date of April 26th was one that seemed like the most people could attend, and it's kind of further out there, so there's time to prepare.
What date is that?
It's a Thursday? For the meeting that's just presentations from
From the university and the University Police Department, Madison Police Department, the Health Department, the polled folks, the Madison Campus Chancellor's Office on their campus alcohol policy. So it's a boatload of folks that have been working on collecting a lot of interesting data. I've seen some of the drafts, and it's some pretty interesting data that we really, as a committee, haven't really had a chance to digest. The Health Department was doing a heat map, among other things, of arrests and contacts in proximity to liquor licenses, and doing some trend analysis on that as well. So part of what Captain Friedman had this evening was a piece of that heat map, but there's more to it. So I had sent an email to the Health Department folks to find out what their update was. They didn't get back to me in time for the meeting tonight, but I'll let you know by separate email.
Is it your recommendation then that we do put a hold on our calendars for the evening of Thursday, April 26th?
Well, if that's the date, yeah, let's at least do that.
Thank you. And then could I ask Jim, did it look like there's decent availability the last week in, was it the last week in May, or the fourth week in May is what the dates I think you were asking us about for separation meeting?
Yeah, I went on around what time we had it last year, and that's about the same week we had it last time.
Yeah, it's historically always the end of May.
It looks like right now that Wednesday we have 7 people, which is the most we've had out of all the dates.
Is that May 23rd?
It is May 23rd.
So we should hold that evening.
And I didn't put Saturday in there, but I'm guessing the fact that only one person wants to go to a Friday meeting, I'm not sure that Saturday would be that popular.
Well, and I don't think you have my response, so I'll make that 8.
May 23rd.
Yeah. Okay, any
Thank you.
further discussion on
Thank you both.
scheduling? Mr. Donnelly?
Jim, what was the second best day?
For which one?
The only one I care about is the one we are required by law to have.
The separations one?
Yes.
It's a tie between the Monday and Thursday.
Can we just schedule it now? I mean, is there quorum on Monday? Can we just schedule it for Monday and Wednesday now, the 21st and 23rd?
Yeah, I'd have 5 voting members on Wednesday, but only 3, it looks like, on Thursday.
I thought you said there were 7 on Wednesday.
I'm sorry, this is not just voting members.
Oh, I see. So Wednesday is thus far the only day when we have quorum?
Based on who's responded so far, I don't have Alder Skidmore's, Mr. Canaspina, what else do I have in here? Mr. Grady.
I can do 21, 22, and 23.
And I'm just, the longer we wait to schedule this, the worse the odds get and the more things that get booked up. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Fernando?
What day?
May 21st and 23rd, that's a Monday and a Wednesday.
May 23rd will be better for me.
Can we do both of them?
I can move things around.
All right. Are we good on those then?
Yeah, we've got a quorum.
5:30, right?
Yeah, 5:30? I think so.
Okay, so you'll send a notice out, remind us all?
Yep.
Okay. Any further business? We have a motion and a second. And all those in favor? We are adjourned.